What if the real gap between your current life and your ideal future is not talent, not luck, not connections, but simply one focused hour a day? Not a complete lifestyle overhaul. Not a dramatic announcement that you're reinventing yourself. Not endless motivation. Just 60 deliberate minutes, repeated consistently. It sounds almost too simple. And that is exactly why most people overlook it. We tend to believe that transformation must feel intense. We assume progress requires exhaustion. We imagine success as something built through extreme schedules and heroic bursts of effort. But the deeper truth, and the central message of how just 1 hour a day can transform your future, is that consistency quietly outperforms intensity. 1 hour does not feel powerful in isolation. But compounded across months and years, it becomes decisive. Let's begin with the mathematics. 1 hour per day becomes 7 hours per week. Roughly 30 hours per month. 365 hours per year. That's more than 9 standard 40-hour workweeks dedicated entirely to a single meaningful goal. Now extend that horizon. 3 years, over 1,000 hours. 5 years, more than 1,800 hours. 10 years, well beyond 3,000 hours. At that scale, you are no longer dabbling. You are developing depth. You are building leverage. You are separating yourself from the average trajectory. The challenge is that the human brain struggles to feel the weight of long-term accumulation. We are wired for immediacy. We want visible results this week. We want validation now. But mastery is quiet. It grows beneath the surface long before it becomes visible. Imagine someone who decides to learn financial literacy for 1 hour every evening. At first, they are confused. Terms feel unfamiliar. Concepts require repetition. After a month, they understand a little more. After 6 months, they start recognizing patterns. After a year, they think differently about money entirely. Nothing dramatic happened in a single day. But the accumulated cognitive shifts compound into a new decision-making framework. And that is where transformation begins, not in the hour itself, but in the identity that hour slowly constructs. Consistency reshapes self-perception. When you show up daily for a meaningful task, you send yourself a signal: this matters. Over time, the behavior stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like identity. You are no longer someone trying to get fit. You are someone who trains daily. You are no longer someone hoping to write a book. You are someone who writes every day. Identity drives behavior more reliably than motivation ever can. Motivation is emotional. It fluctuates based on sleep, stress, environment, mood. If your hour depends on feeling inspired, it will be inconsistent. And inconsistency is the silent killer of progress. Structure is what replaces motivation. When your hour is scheduled, same time, same environment, it becomes automatic. It removes negotiation. It eliminates internal debate. Consider 2 individuals. The first waits to feel productive before studying. The second studies every day at 7 p.m., regardless of mood. After 6 months, the difference between them is not subtle. It is structural. The second person has accumulated over 100 focused sessions. The first may have accumulated 30, scattered and inconsistent. The gap is not intelligence. It is structure. This is why protecting the hour matters more than expanding it. You do not need 3 hours. You need 1 hour of depth. And depth requires removing distraction. We live in an environment engineered to fragment attention. Notifications interrupt thought cycles. Multitasking reduces cognitive efficiency. Constant digital stimulation trains the brain towards shallow engagement. One uninterrupted hour is rare. But rarity creates advantage. If you silence your phone, close unnecessary tabs, and define one single task before beginning, your brain shifts into deeper cognitive processing. Ideas connect more fluidly. Skills refine more precisely. Insight emerges more naturally. The hour becomes qualitatively different. Not all hours are equal. Energy fluctuates across the day. For many people, mental clarity peaks in the morning. For others, focus deepens at night when the world quiets. The key is experimentation. For 2 weeks, try your hour early. Notice your mental sharpness. Then try evenings. Compare output quality. Choose the window that produces your clearest thinking. Optimization matters. But even more powerful than timing is friction reduction. Friction is subtle resistance, the small inconveniences that delay action. If beginning your hour requires setting up materials, searching for files, clearing space, or deciding what to work on, you are adding cognitive load before you even begin. That load increases the probability of postponement. Instead, prepare in advance. At the end of each session, define tomorrow's starting point. Open the document. Lay out the notebook. Place the gym clothes where you can see them. Remove obstacles before they appear. Make starting almost effortless. Because starting is the hardest part. Now consider another dimension, skill stacking. 1 year of 1 hour per day effort can build a meaningful skill. But over multiple years, skills begin to layer. Imagine this progression. Year 1, you study communication and public speaking. Year 2, you refine writing. Year 3, you learn digital marketing or persuasion. Individually, each skill is valuable. Combined, they create leverage. You are no longer simply knowledgeable, you can articulate ideas, distribute them, and influence outcomes. The market rewards combinations. You do not need to be the best in the world at one narrow domain. You need to be unusually capable at a useful combination. 1 hour per day gives you the bandwidth to build those combinations gradually. There is also a psychological shift that occurs when you commit to daily development. You strengthen delayed gratification. Every time you choose focused effort over passive entertainment, you reinforce long-term orientation. You train your brain to tolerate the discomfort of growth in exchange for future payoff. In a culture optimized for instant dopamine, patience becomes a competitive advantage. Imagine 2 people finishing their workday. One scrolls for 3 hours. The other invests 1 focused hour into building a skill, then relaxes intentionally. 5 years later, the second person has accumulated thousands of hours of development. That difference is not marginal. It reshapes opportunity. Careers change not because of sudden inspiration, but because of sustained preparation. Another principle emerges here: track effort, not outcome. Outcomes are influenced by variables beyond your control. Market conditions, timing, external perception. But effort is controllable. If you measure only results, you risk discouragement during the early phases when visible progress is slow. If instead you measure completed hours, you build momentum independent of outcome. Create a simple system. Mark each completed session on a calendar. Maintain a visible tally. Watch the streak grow. Progress becomes tangible. And when life interrupts, because it inevitably will, remember this: perfection is not required. Recovery is. Missing 1 day is normal. Missing 2 consecutively begins erosion. Adopt a simple rule: never miss twice. If circumstances force a missed session, return the next day without guilt or drama. Momentum is preserved through rapid recommitment. This approach removes the all-or-nothing trap that causes many habits to collapse. Now let's zoom out further. Why does 1 hour per day work so effectively? Because transformation rarely requires more information. It requires more applied time. Most people already know what they should improve. They know the skill that would advance their career. They know the health habit that would improve energy. They know the financial knowledge that would increase security. What they lack is structured repetition. Repetition builds neural pathways. Neural pathways build competence. Competence builds confidence. Confidence changes decision-making. Decision-making changes outcomes. The chain begins with repetition. 1 hour per day is sustainable repetition. It is large enough to create progress. Small enough to maintain long-term. The beauty of this model is that it fits into real life. You do not need to quit your job. You do not need external validation. You do not need to announce your plans. You simply begin. Over time, subtle improvements accumulate. A writer who writes 1 hour daily produces hundreds of pages in a year. An entrepreneur who builds 1 hour daily prototypes ideas that others never begin. An investor who studies 1 hour daily sees patterns invisible to casual observers. A professional who learns 1 hour daily becomes indispensable in their field. The outside world may not notice in month 1. But by year 3, the difference becomes undeniable. This leads to one of the most important mindset shifts in the book: think in 5-year horizons. Most people overestimate what they can achieve in a week and underestimate what they can achieve in 5 years. 5 years of daily focused effort places you in a different category. It is enough time to change industries, build a credible side business, achieve advanced physical fitness, develop high-level communication skills, build meaningful investment knowledge. The question becomes less about can I change, and more about what would happen if I committed long enough. The answer is almost always more than you expect. But commitment requires clarity. Before you invest your hour, define direction. Do not scatter your time across random improvements. Choose one meaningful domain. Ask yourself, what skill would most meaningfully expand my future opportunities? What area of weakness, if strengthened, would remove friction from my life? What capability, if developed, would compound over decades? Select carefully. Depth matters more than novelty. Then commit to a minimum of 90 consecutive days. 90 days is long enough to experience identity shift. Long enough to build measurable progress. Long enough to evaluate impact. After 90 days, reassess. Continue or adjust strategically. But during those 90 days, eliminate internal debate. The hour happens. Over time, you may discover something interesting. The hour becomes a stabilizing force. In uncertain environments, daily structured effort creates psychological grounding. It reminds you that regardless of external noise, you are investing in yourself. That sense of agency builds resilience. Resilience is not built through comfort. It is built through disciplined repetition. Each day you show up when you would rather not, you reinforce self-trust. And self-trust may be the most underrated asset in personal development. When you trust yourself to follow through, your ambitions expand naturally. You set larger goals because you believe in your own consistency. And that belief is earned through evidence created hour by hour. Now let's make this practical. If you were to begin tomorrow, what would your hour look like? It would begin with clarity. A single defined task. Not work on business. but outline marketing strategy for product. Not exercise, but complete structured strength routine. Specificity reduces ambiguity. Ambiguity reduces action. Then remove distraction. Silence devices. Close unnecessary windows. Create physical stillness. During the hour, focus exclusively on one defined objective. At the end, record completion. Briefly note what improved. Define the starting point for tomorrow. That is the entire system. Simple. Repeatable. Powerful. Finally, understand this. Transformation rarely feels dramatic while it is happening. It feels ordinary. Quiet. Even unimpressive. But compounding does not announce itself daily. It reveals itself over time. 1 year from now, if you begin today, you will possess hundreds of hours of focused development that you currently do not have. 3 years from now, your thinking will be sharper. Your skills deeper.